Hi, welcome again to Inquiring Minds. Yes, I'm back where I was the other day. We won't say which day because I'd have to think to see which one was it. No, let me think. But we're here again with Donnie Burks in the Benton Memorial Athletic Museum. Or that's Benton Athletic Memorial Museum. I got to get my BAMM there now. I got to get that done. But anyway, we're back again here for another session with Donnie Burks, and he's going to show us some of the exhibits here at the museum and everything. But first, I want to let you know that if you have questions or comments or suggestions for shows, please contact me. I'm at 501-317-7187. That's 317-7187. But first of all, Mr. Burks is going to tell us about the haunting of C.W. Lewis Stadium. Mr. Burks, yes, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
Now, what is this I hear about the haunting of C.W. Lewis Stadium?
Well, Benton has had, with the closing of C.W. Lewis Stadium, we've had 3 stadiums. C.W. Lewis, before that, just closed in 2012. And then before that, we had Fink Field. And then before Fink Field, we had Dobbs Field. And Dobbs Field was located down in the Dobbs Addition. And that was where Benton High School's first football field was. And then the second football field was called Fink Field, like I said, and it was located by Ringgold Elementary School now. Okay. And that whole play area back there was Fink Field. In fact, that was the football field that Benton won its first state championship in 1916.
Wow, this was a while back.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So the first one was down in the Dobbs community,
yes,
which is just a little farther west, is it not?
Yes, ma'am. Right off of Jackman there on Dobbs Street. You go into the Dobbs Addition there, and back in the area back there, I mean, it was flat. Somebody told me that it was so flat it looked like he was walking across Kansas. That it was that flat, So,
I've been to Kansas, I understand.
You understand that, huh? So, but Fink Field was where the program really expanded, because if you're familiar with Ringo, you know how big that area is back
yes,
there. That is a big area for a football field. And of course, Benton used to play bauxite over there at Fink Field. In fact, they used to play on Thanksgiving Day. They would play in the morning time, and then everybody would leave after the ball game and then go home and have turkey and dressing and all the stuff that went with it. And so Benton and Bauxite used to play on a regular basis at Fink Field. Then in 1934, Mr. C.W. Lewis, who was the founder of Lewis Lumber Company here in Benton, he was on the school board and was president of the Benton School Board. And he wanted to come up with a plan for Benton to have a first grade athletic complex for that day and time. And so they got this piece of property, which is where C.W. Lewis Stadium is now. And part of it at one time was a cemetery. And prior to the ball games being played there, they had to exhumed the 13 bodies from the far end of C.W. Lewis Stadium, and then they were relocated out at Rosemont Cemetery. Now, this cemetery was used by the local churches to bury their parishioners in, and at that time, a lot of people know this, that the churches in Benton proper were not that big, because most of the churches at that time were out in the communities.
Yes.
And that's where your big churches were, because not everybody could come to Benton, for church services. So I'm sure, and I might be talking out of school here, not knowing what I'm talking about, but I'm sure this was used by First Baptist Church, First Methodist Church, and probably the Presbyterian churches, because those were the 3 that was really located in downtown proper.
So the Baptist and the Methodist and the Presbyterians are all buried together.
They were all buried together.
We all need to get along here on earth, because
right.
When we get to heaven, we're
going to have to get together anyway. So
may I interrupt you
sure.
just a moment? Do you know, or does anyone know who the names of the ones that were exhumed and reburied?
If they do, nobody is saying. I don't know.
Okay.
But it was called Hall Cemetery. I know that Hall, H-A-L-L, okay?
I'll remember that because I think I'll go and go. I've got a contact at the library.
Okay, okay.
I think I'll check that out.
Okay.
But I know that there were some that were exempt.
Right, and if you'll notice that side street by First Baptist Church,
Yes.
and over there with the football field, that street is not very wide.
No, it's not.
It's not very wide. And so the thought process was that this was the street they would bring the hearse down in, okay? And then they would turn left, and then they'd go where the goal post is and go to the far end down there and bury the bodies, okay? Well, when they finally was able to get this property, they had set out a plan to build this sports complex for Benton. Benton had never played football under the lights. It was always during the day, okay? So, when they built the complex, they completed it. Mr. Lewis had already passed away when it was over. He never got to see it. And they had state-of-the-art lighting at C.W. Lewis Stadium. They had a high-wire fence that went all the way around the stadium. In Benton High School, I don't know of anybody else that had it. Benton High School, you could say, had the first dome, because all around the campus, all around the football field, there was this large wire that was screwed all the way around the top, okay? And there was a canvas that was down on the floor of the stadium. And what they would do when they were getting ready to play, they would raise this canvas up all the way around the stadium. You could not see in, you could hear, but you could not see in the ballgame. Now, I asked an individual who played at that time, who I thought had played that time, and he told me, he said, Burks, I was just a teenager. He said, but what we would do, kids rather, he said, what we'd do, he said, when Benton was playing, he said, we'd go down there to the football field, and he said, we'd get down on our hands and knees, and we'd pull up that canvas so we could see inside, and their knuckles would be inside the field. He said they had about 8 or 10 gentlemen with long poles, and they'd go around around that canvas, and they'd whack your knuckles. Oh, they'd whack your knuckles so you couldn't see, so you couldn't see.
So to see the game, you had to pay.
You had to pay 35 cents.
Wow.
35 cents.
Hey, that was more than a movie.
That's right. 35 cents for an adult and 10 cents for students. And so to kick this thing off right, to where they'd opened up the stadium in 1934. The first opponent was Arkadelphia. When the school board, and they wouldn't do this today, I can tell you, but the school board paid for a barbecue for the dedication. All the free food you could eat. And it was furnished by the Benton School Board. And, but the only catch was to that, was that you had to buy a ticket to the game. Okay? So, what they did to impress everybody was sitting outside where the parking lot is now. They had raised the canvas. Now, this is the first account of the haunting. They raised the canvas, and everybody was sitting around on the outside, and they heard noises coming from inside C.W. Lewis Stadium. This is the legend that's come down to me. They heard the noises coming from C.W. Lewis Stadium. Some of the people in charge went in and opened the doors. And I've got the original picture. I'm going to show it to you in a minute,
okay,
of the opening of the stadium. And they went in there, no noise.
No noise.
No noise. They went back outside and people started eating again. The noises came again from the ground.
From inside.
From inside the stadium. Okay? So, they went back in. They lowered the canvas. There was no more noises. They lowered the canvas, and Benton played Arkadelphia under the lights for the first time having a night ball game. There was no noise. There was no image of the Black Panther. The Black Panther arrived in 1936. Noises would always come from the ground of C.W. Lewis Stadium when nobody was around. In 1936, Benton played for the first time the Wildcats of El Dorado High School.
Okay.
Okay.
El Dorado.
Yes, ma'am. And that night, Benton lost the ball game 14-0. Now, the interesting thing about that is, from 1934 until 1936, when they played El Dorado, Benton High School Panthers had not lost a football game.
Good record.
After the ball game, when Benton was defeated, and after they turned out the lights at C.W. Lewis Stadium, and people started leaving, somebody just happened to turn around and look, and sitting under the goalpost, which is the goalpost where it is now, facing First Baptist Church, saw an image of a Black Panther sitting under the goalpost. It was an image, a silhouette. Okay?
Very interesting.
Now, what caused it to be seen was that a fog had started to descend over C.W. Lewis Stadium. The Panther had never been seen before.
Has it been seen since?
Oh yeah, because I'm going to tell you about that. Yeah, I'm going to tell you about
Okay.
that. Yeah. So the Panther, the image of the Black Panther was seen. The body was under the goalpost. The tail was curled out toward First Baptist Church, and the head was aimed to the left a little bit, looking up to the press box.
Oh,
The image, the silhouette.
wow.
From the fog.
This is interesting.
So, somebody tried to get attention of other people, and when the attention was gotten, then the fog or whatever disintegrated the image of the big Black Panther. That was the first time the big Black Panther was seen. The second time the big Black Panther was seen at C.W. Lewis Stadium was when Benton Junior High burned in 1962.
I remember
It was
that.
on Christmas break. The only part of the building that is standing is the part from where the image of the Black Panther was seen moving from C.W. Lewis Stadium to the top of that wing that still stands today. That is the only part of old Benton High School that was saved. Some people think the image of the Black Panther, the silhouette, had something to do with it. Fire never touched that building.
And
It
who
destroyed.
are we to dispute them?
That's right. And so then, when C.W. Lewis Stadium was beginning to really come of its own age because of the winds and the tradition that was being built at C.W. Lewis Stadium, there were different accounts of C.W. Lewis Stadium being haunted by images, ghosts, apparitions, and Black Panther images. The next time after that was seen was over here at Benton High School. In 1988, Benton High School caught on fire. It was referred to as the fire on the border. The week before, on Labor Day weekend, there is a picture floating around that you can see an image of the Black Panther walking through the windows on Benton High School campus. When the fire was put out, that particular image of where the Black Panther was seen was not destroyed. The Black Panther returned to C.W. Lewis Stadium the night Benton played Little Rock Hall. I think you and I, we discussed that the other day when Benton played Little Rock Hall. That night after the ball game, the image of the Black Panther was seen again. You can stand up at First Methodist Church late at night, and you could, up until the end of last year, hear noises coming from the grounds of C.W. Lewis Stadium.
But not
That's where he
anymore.
stored. That's where he resided. 5 years ago, there was a coach from Benton Junior High. They went down to C.W. Lewis Stadium to mow the lawn at night. He was mowing the lawn, and when he got finished, he moved his mower to the far end of the field where the cemetery plots were. He heard voices He looked up at the top of C.W. Lewis Stadium on the home side, where the big two headstones, as I call them right now, they say 1936 on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean 1934. And between that, I call them headstones, but between them, there was 3 chairs sitting there. This was after 10 o'clock at night. And there was 3 images of people sitting in those chairs. And this coach hollered and said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And he said those images just vanished out of the chairs. The chairs of the 3 chairs ended up down by the scoreboard at C.W. Lewis Stadium at the opening of the fence where the band would go into the stadium. After that, the school district rather, put a light on the back of the scoreboard. The Panther was never seen again until last year.
Last year.
Last year. At the ball game between Benton and El Dorado. The first game Benton lost at C.W. Lewis Stadium was when the Panther was seen.
Mm-hmm.
The last ball game Benton was to play at C.W. Lewis Stadium was against El Dorado. That score was 28-14 in favor of El Dorado. The same school that they had lost to when they opened was the same school that they lost to when they closed C.W. Lewis Stadium. When the lights were turned out, somebody happened to turn around and look, and sitting at the top of the press box was the silhouette of the big Black Panther. The Black Panther has not been seen since then. The night that they closed C.W. Lewis Stadium, there was a pep rally held after the ball game. I was not in attendance that night because I was stuck in Hurricane Sandy for 9 days in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
I'm so sorry. I feel so sorry for you.
So I did not get to come home to take part in the festivities. They had an urn that they had at the stadium that they captured the spirit and everything else that they could that would come in from the air and from the ground and whatever, and they captured it in that urn. They locked the cap on the urn. They brought that urn here to the museum.
For storage?
For storage. We kept that urn in here until last week. Now, I'm saying this to say that when they brought it into the museum, we have never had a lighting problem in the museum until
the urn
was brought into the museum. This light back here in the back, when I would come in, this light would flicker. Going like that, just flicker. Then would it eventually would quit. I called the maintenance department and had them come over and check the light. There was nothing wrong with the ballast. There was nothing wrong with the light bulbs. There was nothing wrong with the wiring.
So
last week,
people could say maybe this was the spirit wanting out.
Yes.
Or something.
Yes.
Yes.
Last week, when we opened up the new complex, and I presented the urn to the president of the student council of Benton High School, Mr. Partridge, I told him that I wanted the urn back after they released everything that was inside that had been captured in the urn from the pep rally, and he did. I brought it back to the museum. The light has not flickered since.
So that's because the spirit got out of the urn and now it's over.
Now it's over there. Now I've had
new
students
complex.
ask me if the Black Panther will be seen over there, and I said, well, I don't know.
I don't know.
Don't know. I said, but I know it does have a history between C.W. Lewis and Benton High School.
Yes.
And it has been seen. In fact, there is a picture in the 1988 annual, a picture of the fire that took place on the border. there is several chairs that was on the old stage, which is still in the cafeteria, by the way. That's where the stage in the cafeteria is the old original stage in the gym of Benton High School. There were several chairs on the stage. There was only one chair turned over when the fire department got into there to put the fire out. There were paws in the floor,
Paw prints.
paw prints from the stage where the chair was turned over. That is in the annual, the 1988 Benton Panther annual.
Now, folks, you've heard the story. If you believe it, that's your choice. If you don't, that's your choice. But Mr. Burks is telling us what is
The legend.
the legend. It's been handed down from one fan to another to another. Was it a ghost?
Don't know.
Don't know. Was it?
A silhouette or an image or a light or what, you know, but, you know, I've had people tell me that they have heard noises and sounds coming from the grounds of C.W. Lewis Stadium. That story I told you a while ago about the coach.
Yes.
The three chairs, he couldn't believe the three chairs were up there at the very time, because there's no chairs up there. Because people have to walk down those steps to get to their seats. But these three chairs were lined up there. 3 images of people were sitting in those chairs. And when the coach said, "Hey, what are you doing up there?" then they just vanished into thin air. And then that's when the school district put a light on the back. And you go down there now, that light is back up there on the back of the scoreboard at C.W. Lewis Stadium.
And that's why it's there?
That's why it's there. Never was there before. It was never there before. Now, are those headstones? Well, you know, when you look at them, if you're standing down on the ground and you're looking up, they look just like headstones. It says 1934 on it. Are there still, I've had students ask me, you know, they'll say, "Well, Mr. Donnie says, is there any bodies buried in there?" Well, I don't know if there's any bodies buried in those headstones, or any remains of a body in those headstones, or a ghost living in those headstones. You know, I've had students who have gone down there late at night and they say they've heard things. And whether that's true, I don't know, but they've reported back to me that they have heard things coming from C.W. Lewis Stadium. People have seen the image of C.W. Lewis Stadium. The Arkansas Democrat went down there when they did the big tabloid about the closing of C.W. Lewis Stadium, and they found a black spot in their picture that they took. Just a big black spot in the middle of that picture.
And they couldn't explain
it. And they
it.
couldn't explain it. They couldn't explain the big black spot in the picture. So, is C.W. Lewis Stadium, was it haunted? Don't know. It was a cemetery? Yes. The images of the Black Panther have been seen not only there, but it's been seen at the Benton Junior High, which is adjacent to C.W. Lewis Stadium. And if you go down there now, there's only one wing of that building that's standing. If you look at the old pictures of Benton High School, that was built in 1944, that was burnt in 1988. You look at some pictures from earlier, and you can see the image of the Black Panther. You can see his forelegs, you can see his body, and you can see this tail in the windows. And that was the only part of the building that was saved after the fire in the fire on the border. And then, when they took the jackhammer to the building to tear it down to build this new high school, they put the jackhammer to it. The north wall of Benton High School would not go down. They called me, and I went over there. I was over here at the museum. They called me and asked me to come down there, and I went down there. And they said, they just come right out of that construction people and says, "Is this building haunted?" Because this is the only wall that won't go down. Everything else has gone down, and we put the jackhammer in. But the north wall of Benton High School will not go down.
Now, was that the wall that had the windows in it where the...
No, this was the other wing of the school.
Oh, okay.
This was the other, it went down this way, and this part here was the part that burned.
Okay.
Where the Panther was seen in the window was in this section here. So what I asked him to do was this. They took a chisel, and a hammer. And they cut a brick out of that wall. They gave me the brick. The brick is in this building right now. I'll show it to you in a minute. The brick is in this building of the north wall of Benton High School. After they cut that brick out and gave it to me, they put the jackhammer to the north wall and it went down.
Amazing stories.
You know, the school, you know, a lot of people always thought the building that was built in 1954, that it was haunted. A lot of people have always thought that that building was haunted. And what really gave it away, like I said, was when there was the fire on the border, and that chair was the only one that was turned over on the stage.
And the paw prints.
And the paw prints and the dust or dirt that was down there on the stage. And the other chairs were all gone.
Just
I mean, standing rather.
for some of our viewers who may not know, would you tell us why it was called the fire on the border?
Because it was such a major magnitude of a destruction of a building that just went up like a Roman candle. Story has it that it was arson, that they found the accelerant, and in fact, I'm going to show you the picture here in just a minute of the fire on the border of what the building actually looked like before. But the part that really got to me about maybe the building being haunted was when the north wall of Benton High School would not go down.
There's reasons.
There's reasons. And so, you know, I just asked them, I said, well, why don't y'all just cut a brick out of it and let's see what happens. And they chiseled a brick. One brick. And like I said, I'm going to show you that brick in just a minute when we start the tour. They took that brick out of there. And when they did, they started out the other end with the breaking ball and all that kind of stuff. And the north wall fell like that.
Just like
the
that.
building wanted to be remembered. And when it got the brick out, it knew it was going to some place where it would be remembered. And the brick is in the building, in this building right now.
Wow, these are fascinating stories. Now, ghost stories, I could sit here and swap ghost stories with you quite a while. Are there really ghosts? You decide. That's. Do you believe in ghosts? Are they really ghosts? Or are they? If they're not ghosts, what are they? Do you have a better explanation? If you have questions about this, come to the museum and visit with Mr. Burks. He'll tell you the stories. Again, I'm sure you'd love to tell those stories.
Oh yeah, the students at the Benton High School and Junior High School, they like for Mr. Donnie to tell the ghost stories about the haunting of C.W. Lewis Stadium, because some of them have had their parents take them down there to sit and wait and see if they can see the Black Panther. And I told them, I said, now I'm going to tell you, just because Mr. Donnie says this is what happened, doesn't mean the Black Panther is going to show up.
That's true.
I mean, you know, it's up to the Black Panther's discretion as to whether the Black Panther wants to show up or not. Because I said, you know, prior to the high school burning over on River Street, okay, the Black Panther had not been seen since 1936.
Wow.
You know, but then when that fire started, even the fire department said they saw something on top of that building surrounding the smoke that looked like the image of something. And that building, that part of the building, you can go down there right now, that is still part of Old Benton High School, Old Benton Junior High School, which is now part of UALR.
I remember when that one burned, but our time is about up for this program, but we're going to visit more later. But if you have ghost stories you'd like to share on TV, contact me. I gave you my number. It's 317-7187. We'll just get together and discuss ghost stories. But and if they're ghosts, they're ghosts. If they're not, there's another explanation. I don't have it, but they're interesting. There's reasons things like that happen. I don't know if they're ghosts or not. But Mr. Burks, I appreciate so much you sharing this with us.
You bet.
And we will do another program with Mr. Burks, and he'll get to the exhibits next time. I promise. Won't we?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But that's it for our program today. I want to thank you for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, call and let me know. If you haven't, call and let me know. as the old saying goes, if you've enjoyed it, tell your neighbors. If you didn't, tell me, and we'll see what we can do about it.